To come out and listen to this presentation and this workshop today. I guess it's probably a better title for what they're going to be doing today. So we got some individuals from Lang Foundation here talk about early career development type of skills. They know themselves better than I know them. I'm going to have them introduce themselves and get started. Okay? Feel free to get food anytime. Just the ground rules.
Anytime. Just use a napkin, wipe the table down when you leave, throw your trash away.
Okay? Be professional, be polite, be respectful, okay? So maybe walk around behind if you want a pizza over there instead of in front of the speaker. Okay, four listener guys.
Thank you. So, guys, and ladies, thank you for letting us come talk to y'all. Feel free, like I said, go for that. I'm just going to say a little bit, just some housekeeping things before we get started. Thank you again for being here. We're very appreciative just getting to speak to y'all and getting to spend time. And really just want to know, you guys to know that we're here because of y'all. We believe this next generation has an awesome opportunity to really lead at an early age. I am 26 years old, and I am day-to-day running a project at 250,000 square feet. Did not think that 2 to 3 years out of college I would have that opportunity. And as we all know, there's a lot of things going on in the industry as far as getting people to come to work. So if you're willing, you're motivated, you're eager, a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today, we really believe that if you come out, you're going to have that exact same opportunity. So we're going to share some of the stuff. I'm kind of the young one. We got some older people to my right that are going to help out as well. That's right. Seasoned veterans in our industry. But just one more thing. We're going to thank you. Just Robinson Morton kind of sponsored this event. They're a company that, if you don't know about them, they're based out of Birmingham, Alabama. If I'm saying it correctly, 95% of what they do is specialize in hospitals. Right? 90. So
I think they went and visited a job site.
It's just a great company. Miss Jennifer, if you raise your hand, that's Miss Jennifer Lacey. She works for Robinson Morton. So go talk to her after the event. But just a company that really cares about the people. So to get started, I want to do an icebreaker because I remember being in college. I remember how petrified I was to ask a question or speak up in the classroom. So whoever wants to talk first, who wants to tell me about how they got peeked into coming into the construction?
I'll go. So, fun fact about me. My name's Rizel, by the way. Nice to meet you. I wanted to be an architect at first, and then I started playing with AutoCAD, and I thought, probably not. So, but I still wanted to be in the industry. I like the interior design aspect, the whole process of things, and then I found out about you could get a degree in construction management, so that's how that piqued my interest. So, now we're about to graduate.
That's awesome. Graduate in May?
December, unfortunately.
Congratulations. Who else? Who else got into construction?
I guess halfway through high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I wanted to just make a lot of money. And then someone suggested contracting. And kind of focused on that ever since. And when I was a senior, I got a job in a custom residential construction company. And I worked there for 3 years. And sadly, it went under, but I'm here.
Yeah. Who else? I saw the hand.
Yeah, my name is Jared Barnes. I'm a senior this year. I'm 25, so I'm a little older. Last of the people here. I have experience growing up. My dad's owned 2 businesses in residential building, waterproofing and insulation, so I got to see all the guts of what goes on in residential. So that kind of got me started, and I actually came for NRM. Natural Resource Management my first year of college, and I ended up deciding to switch to construction management. Felt like something that I was naturally good at. Enjoyed it more. I really enjoyed working with my hands. All from there, so graduated.
Does anyone see the similarities there? Like, there's not a similarity in your story, so you're all unique, right? Everyone has a story, and a lot like myself. I was in civil engineering, went to business. I changed my major a few times. So the construction industry, or majority of people, besides I think Mr. Thomas, doesn't know they're going to go in the construction industry, right? So how can we prepare y'all, us, and get people more intrigued in construction? So that's the single thing I want to take away. I always try to find the common ground in people because we're all all 6 of us about to tell you, as important it is to know the technical skills of how we have to build. If I can relate to Justin, if I can relate to one of you, really understand who you are, I'm going to go a lot further in my career. So it's important, again, know the technical skills. We're going to talk about that, but people first is what we're going after. So I want to just, you guys know this is going to be a conversation. I want you to know, feel free to, you don't have to raise your hand, just blurt something out, whatever you'd like to do. But from our panel here, just tell us a little bit, maybe 90 seconds each, who you are, how you got into construction.
I'm Justin Uyar. Alumni of Western, did the online master's program. Got my bachelor's in civil engineering, and that's what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to be a structural engineer. And I stumbled into construction on my first job out of school. I really struggled with getting an engineering job. So I kind of stumbled into construction management, and I fell in love with the people part of it. There's so many different people from so many different companies that have to come together on a project, make something happen. I fell in love with it. So, story.
I'll be happy to. I know we were signing. You guys go next.
Yeah, I'm next.
Okay.
We're like star pattern.
I am Jennifer Lacey. I work with Robbins and Morton. I've been with them for 20 years this year. I've been their lean practice leader for 4 years. And so I guess my journey into construction was an operations manager. Then I went to teaching and coaching for 5 years. And then I stumbled into construction as I don't know what this is. This looks like fun. And 20 years later, now I'm leading our lean implementation, lead our culture, and how we approach every project, every interaction, every relationship, really making it about the people and not about the tools, and how we are continuously improving every day, making whatever we're doing great today.
So I'm Adam Hoots. I am a lean construction coach. I'm a professor at Clemson University. I'm also a PhD candidate there. I'm the voice of the Lean Builder podcast. Boots on the ground with no bullshito. Very much lean construction driven, real down to earth things we can use in the field. In fact, Thomas is going to be an upcoming guest here soon.
Next episode.
But yeah, I started as a plumber, so my journey into construction, my father is a general superintendent at Whiting Turner. He does all the work at Disney World. He made me get a job as a plumber at 17, and I hated it. I felt very disrespected. Our trade workers are just not respected like they should be, and so I challenge all of you, especially on this side of the room. We need to take care of those workers, right? They're the only reason that we provide value in the field. So we have to enable them and empower them. So my journey into construction was just that. Plumber, hated it, went to school, graduated from USF, went to the industry for 20 years. Whiting Turner and DPR, built some pretty high-tech clean room laboratories, that sort of thing. Broke off and started to discover lean construction, and I just steal all that Jen Lacey's wonderful stuff and apply it to organizations. That's what we do, R&D, baby.
Okay. Thomas LeMay. I work at DPR Construction. Probably the largest company sitting here. I guess I'm representing. But also, it's kind of, I'd like to brag about, we're also one of the largest framing and drywall companies, and top 10 concrete. So we not only do we plan and schedule and manage work, we also put it in place. In fact, we own like 3 factories. So that means we employ tile setters, electricians, plumbers, all in prefabricated settings. So that's why did I get into construction? Because I can get into all of that. So in 2004, I was sitting in the same seat before. So less than just under 20 years, maybe slightly older than Davis has been on the face of the planet.
Some things have changed.
But I've been able, kind of like Adam here, as long as you're willing, as long as you're capable, you can work almost anywhere. No one will tell you no. I worked in Las Vegas. I worked in Southern California and Northern California on high rises and hotels and hospitals. And now I manage a quality program for the whole Southeast. And then I'll end this with this story that we're building a facility in Durham, North Carolina that will eventually be the place where they make a cancer treatment drug. And we're also in South Florida building a cancer treatment facility where that drug will be administered. So it's like you get to really see both ends of the spectrum in the built environment. That's it's something that's especially what we get to do is we get to be part of that. We get to deliver both products.
So I'm Kyle Grandel. I'm the owner of Dell Management. We do construction management for manufacturing, mainly large industrial plants of that nature. So my story is one of opening doors, really. I started out as an electrician. I started doing that because my dad and I used to our friends' basements for them to do the framing, put the sheetrock up, do some electrical, and then I got really interested in doing electrical works. I was actually an electrician first. That was my background. I went to the trades that way. I got licensed, and then I went to school for engineering. My background is actually electrical engineering, so a little different than construction management, but that's how I got into it. I opened the door. So doing some electrical engineering work on a project, I met a construction manager who had a need for another superintendent to join him on his projects up in Michigan. And I said, well, I'm always on site anyways. I like building stuff, so let's go try it out. And then I haven't looked back. I started my own company in 2016. Been working on building the company ever since then, and it's just opening a door and being at the right time, right place. So that's why I'm here today.
And I'm David Sandberg. I'm an assistant field manager at Grassville and Glory. I also host a podcast and a newsletter. And really, if I could sum it into words, my mission is to help you guys. I'm going to equip you to be the best leaders you can because I didn't really have a lot of people help me. So I want to replicate the success I've had. We want to help create people that are willing to just make an imprint of themselves in all this industry. And how do we do that? So, I've gotten opportunities. I worked in New Orleans right out of college, went to Auburn, and went to New Orleans and just moved away from family. Some of you are going to get that opportunity. What is that like? It's not going to be easy for you. It's going to be hard. And then I got another opportunity. Now I'm working in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and I'm assistant field manager under our superintendent. So I'm the number 2 field guy. Again, I'm 26 years old. So it's just, I was not ready for this opportunity, and I don't think we're ever going to be perfectly ready for anything we do. But again, we all work for companies that care about our people, and we want you guys to, whenever you go out into the industry, know, again, if you care about the people, if you try your best to lead others, you're going to do really well in our industry. So, kind of just moving into the next thing, panel, or if anyone's got a question, the next question I have is, how do you see our industry in its current state, and where do you think we're going?
Can I rephrase that question? What's y'all's perception of the industry right now? Some of you may have internship experience, some not. Right now, what's y'all's perception of the industry? Say that again.
Always going to be needed.
That's in 2008. How about from this side? What do y'all think?
Not mine, y'all.
No, everybody sitting like this is on my target.
I don't know. It's just a really big deal. It's growing rapidly. Traceabilities are going up everywhere. It's in need. I feel like there's not a lot of. I feel like there's more work than there are people nowadays. I'm always growing. Never going to really be ranked by a robot. It's a long time. What else?
I mean, what I see kind of right now is a lot of job security in the market. I mean, just as he said, the industry is just always kind of growing, and they're always needing somebody else to work. So I kind of see it as a super secure place to kind of start a career in.
What's your name, man?
I've got to start. I have a super hard time actually saying my name. So
Okay.
Benjamin
Awesome.
Brown. Benjamin. Yeah.
Benjamin.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Benjamin? I love
It's always a
that.
little bit of a hang time there, you know. So it's been all good.
So with that being said, what do y'all think? And I don't mean getting a job, but what do you think y'all's biggest challenge is once you start a job, once you start your career? What do you think personally or individually your biggest challenge is?
I think our age. I think a lot of people assume that not know much, which is true. We don't know everything,
Yeah.
but it's hard to gain respect from others when you pull out like your idea or anything you present to the table. It's kind of hard to be looked as like almost.
Davis, you want to touch on that being the younger one in the group?
Yeah. I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today is really, you think about as a tradesman, we talked about when we have a plumber and electrician here, right? They all have a different tool set. So today we're going to be talking a lot about some tool sets with, how do you handle conflict? How do you set a boundary? How do you lead someone when you don't know the technical skill? How do I go lead a 50-year-old foreman? No one tells you how to do that, right? Like you have to figure that out. And so those first 3 years, man, it's just trial and error. But the way that I approached that was, I say, well, my aunt taught me this: is you listen, you learn, you leave with questions. So it takes a lot longer, and to me, it's the better way. You try to help that person realize how big of an asset you can be to them. So if the foreman that has 40 years of experience doesn't like your idea, let him say that, but keep showing up every day. Work hard. Ask questions. Make sure whenever he needs something, you're there to help him, right? And over time, you're going to break them down. I remember as an intern, I was on a concrete crew for B&G, and they talked about how one guy was like, I'm going to wait a month and see if you break, right? He wants to see, can I take it? Can I take the heat? And then after that month, he was willing to do anything I could. And so that old guard is, you got to work hard. They want to see that you have the capability to come in and grind it out. And it's tough, it really is. But if you go show up, work hard, you ask questions, if you lead, and there's nothing they won't do.
That's kind of a non-conventional answer to that question. It also helps sometimes too if you can kind of convince them it's their idea.
Yeah.
And sometimes repetition will do that. You have a discussion, they kind of push back on it, like, yeah, I don't know about that. Bring it up again, maybe again. And eventually, they think it's their idea. You're like, you know what? That's great. Great idea. Love it. Let's do it. I've had luck with that one a few times.
James, what I've heard you say, Paul says, not only are you going to leave here with a tool belt, with a hammer and some tape measures and maybe some tools and even some knowledge and scheduling, logistics, quality, but if you're not also armed with some of those soft skills, like being able to communicate with people, being able to listen, and you're in a room not only with seasoned people, but with new people, with people that have more experience with you, people that have less, then you're going to struggle. Because the industry you're coming into is not the industry, I'm telling you, that even Davis came in. It is a different industry. And if you're not coming in leading with those skills, you're going to struggle. You've got to come in and understand that if you are not caring for the human being in front of you, you are not taking into account that they are your equal, no matter where they are, what trade they work for, if they're the client, if they're the engineer, it does not matter. You're not coming into those conversations, engaging with them in that way, you're going to struggle. And when you struggle, then you're going to react and you're going to go default, go back to, well, because I'm in charge, because that's what I said. Let me tell you, that doesn't work anymore. Does it? And you made a great point, is job security? Absolutely. Because guess what? Someone doesn't like the way you treat them, they don't like the things you say, they're going to go somewhere else. They're not going to stay with the company you work for, or they're not going to stay on the project you're on. So if you're not leading with those things, not only are you going to struggle, but the project's going to struggle.
a lot of really making yourself uncomfortable. Like you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, which I know it's kind of an oxymoron, right? Like icy hot, but you have to go force yourself to be okay with, I don't know, I just got to figure it out, right? And you have to be willing to go ask questions. Like I remember as a college student, again, if I was in this setting, I could not come up here and speak to y'all. I'd be mortified. But I get in the industry, and you get in these opportunities where you get to lead meetings, and it just becomes a part of you. Learn it. And you're going to fail. You're going to suck at it. You're not going to do well. You're just going to have to pick yourself up and continue to learn. How do I get better? You also, I think it helps to have people that are like-minded, right? If your team is bought into one goal, then it's going to be a lot better than one guy or one gal leading. And if I say it, that's it. You want to have I guess like a basketball team approach. Not one person touches the ball. Everybody passes it. So I have questions, again, about the tool set that I'm talking about. Miss Jen hit on it. It talks about your soft skills. So how many of us have spent time learning about emotional intelligence? You know, how good? The ladies, good. How many of us have done any type of leadership training? 4 hands. There we go. What about how to handle conflict? Good. So a lot of these things are the things that I had to learn out on the job site. So I'm glad that we've learned. I want to skip down to what does setting boundaries mean to you, and how do you do it? Let's talk to them.
This is actually really important as you transition from an academic environment to a working environment, knowing your limits, especially when you're 27 years old and you got more energy. But the idea of setting boundaries is really about managing your energy. Really important to manage it, because the thing about building construction, it goes. It's happening in every major city. If you don't believe me, look up and see tower cranes. Notice those tower cranes start moving at 5 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes they run on the weekends and stuff. So there's one skill that really starts sharpening now. It's about managing. What I mean by that is like sleep, food, movement, those kind of things, all those things that we talk about, because those will immediately be challenged as you enter into the professional environment. Because we want you to be here at 5 a.m. and then there's a meeting at 5 p.m. and then all of a sudden we need you to cover on a Saturday, and then all of a sudden you're burned out. So for me, setting boundaries is really about, hey, if I'm tired, I need right? I need to take a personal day. And the best thing about what's changing in the industry is gritting your teeth and facing all of that conflict head on. It's no longer acceptable. We really want people to get good rest and have a good home life. That's super important. So, but at the end of the day, you got that's my way of setting boundaries. That's own your time, own your physical location, and own what direction you go next.
I just want to, great points. I want to add, you are your best advocate. You can't go and say, well, they didn't do this. They didn't give me time off. They didn't understand. They didn't see that I needed a break. Like they overloaded me. Again, that can happen. And sometimes because people have a lot of things going on, if you don't say something, you don't voice where you are and what you need, it is hard. You cannot just blame someone else for doing it. So that is my advice, is that when you're in there doing exactly what Thomas says, you've got to create the space for those things. You know, we used to call it work-life balance. Some people still do. I don't call it that, because isn't work part of your life? So it should be a home life balance. Sorry, a home work balance. What are you doing that has to do with home? What are you doing that has to do with work? And making sure that you're balancing those things. And they're not going to be 50-50 ever. Ever. I'm going to be clear with you. It's never going to be 50-50. But there's going to be a time where the home has to take priority. There's going to be a time where work takes priority. But as long as you're making those things balance and you're giving the time that you need to them, and you're advocating for yourself early, then you're not going to be in this, and you're not going to be drowning, and then all of a sudden go, I don't know how I got here, but I need help. Somebody please save me. You've got to start early with voicing those things. And it doesn't mean, again, being lazy, using it as a cop out, and not doing the work. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with do the things that you're responsible to, but also make sure you're taking care of yourself, because it's no one else's responsibility to do that. And it's easy when you get in, like Thomas said, your energy, you're excited, you're going, I'm just going to get up early and stay late. I'm going to let everybody know that I can work hard and work hard and work hard until you can't. And then you're struggling, and then you're not getting stuff done. Guess what? They're going to notice that just as much. So you've got to make sure you find it out.
So, well, I was going to ask, has anyone felt that in internship? Working, I mean, has anybody felt that environment before? Just quick raise of hands, right? So we've all kind of felt it before.
No, so I was just going to elaborate. What I refer to what Ms. Jen is saying is life balance, right? We're just balancing our entire life. And a lot of it is putting in time. A lot of it is, especially kind of coming in, like you better be there at 6 and 12-hour days. If you want any reputation on the job site, that's what you better do. Even still to this day, that's what it is. So I hope you're prepared for that. There are some companies that are focused on eliminating that, but I will tell you from my perspective, a tool that you can use is one, getting very clear on why you're in that role. Why are you in that job? Are you there to learn? Are you there to add value from a RFI review, a submittal review? What does the project team rely on you for? What is the value that you add to this equation? Once you can figure that out, then you need to figure out how to start time boxing, time blocking, right? So you're going to go to your schedule and you're going to block out certain amounts of time, and you're going to dedicate those to first starting with family events, right? We're getting the most important things in there first. We're getting family in there, then we're getting maybe health, and then we're getting maybe, then it's some of the big meetings that you just can't miss. And then you start working in some of those firefighting opportunities, so that when a project manager or superintendent comes to you and say, hey, I got this emergency, like, so-and-so just mudded over all the electrical outlets on the entire floor, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And you're like, hey, this is what I'm working on. Which of these things is not a priority, or can you help me with so that I can go take care of the environment? I think it's important that you protect your time that way, and I think that's just, again, providing a tool that you can use to kind of expand on what Thomas and this.
It's a story. I would go talk to Justin. We were building the Honeywell Tower in Israeli, right next to the Panther Stadium. And,
you were the shell contractor, and you were the
I was
fit-out
interior,
contractor.
so there was like
That's how these two know each other.
there
Best friends.
there shouldn't be like I would get more information out of Justin. And it wasn't like I was trying to get what's happening with the core and the shell. I was trying to get to current state, and sometimes the current state information is not always completely clear. And in fact, oftentimes it's shrouded because we're trying to protect the business or a schedule strategy. But the more, especially when you merge into the industry, you're going to be relied upon to make those informal network connections, like almost immediately. That means like knowing foremen, knowing architects, knowing like a building inspector, and making those relationships. The people that make those the best and the fastest move up the ladder the quicker, because when you get to the next level, now it's you don't end there. Now you have a whole new set of networks that you have to build. So
And that's
build on the time blocking. There's a really good book if you want to take a note. It's Brian Tracy called Focal Point. I would get it on Audible, but that's a really good. There's a bunch of tactics that you can take with. You can use it in school. But Focal Point, Brian Tracy.
I want to open up to the group. I mean, does anybody have any questions or want to share a story or experience about that? A situation that you've been in and how you dealt with it?
Who time blocks? Who actually takes and dedicates time in their schedule? You two.
How do you do it?
I've got a notebook, and each week I write down my responsibilities, and I mark them out for what day they're going to be completed and what time limit I have for those objects.
That's awesome. What's your name?
Brandon Roberts.
Brandon, that's awesome.
Imagine he's a high performing student.
And the reason why, what's different when you're an academic, you have a class schedule and they meet every day. Get into onto a construction site, it's chaos. We really try to focus, like keep our meetings, but stuff comes up, people go on vacation, they go away, they get babies. So like taking your time means like you're able to have some flexibility to build that.
You have to build it right now because the hardest time to protect your time is the position y'all are about to be in as project engineers, field engineers, entry level guys. That is the hardest time to protect because you have so much coming at you. Whether it's your manager, things on the job, learning, there's so much coming at you that this is the hardest time. So trying to develop that habit now may ultimately.
Also the most fun, I think I do it. If somebody asks me,
It's also the most challenging, right? I think what's your name again?
Rise up.
Riza? You brought up a good point earlier about it. I think one of the hardest positions in construction is project engineer, field engineer, that entry level position, because you're expected to know a lot about the job. You're expected to turn out submittals and RFIs. You're expected to learn at a rapid pace. You become a resource for the rest of the team to kind of dump things on. And you're in a position of authority. And like you said, you may not have the street cred yet, right? Because of age, because of experience. But your job title says, hey, I'm in a position of authority. And balancing that line and learning how to navigate those waters is what's going to make you successful. That's a tough position to be in.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you guys, guys and gals, was how many of you have done like an assessment, like personality or about your ways of working on yourselves? Few of you? If you haven't, I really recommend that. For me in my career, that was one of my biggest aha moments when realizing how I actually work. And you go through school, you turn in your assignments, you finish up, and then that's all you do. Now you're off in the real world. Except for if you didn't take any time to figure yourself out, you're going to struggle. You're going to find yourself hitting roadblocks. You're not going to figure out why you're having trouble getting to certain spots in your career. For me, that was a big thing. I learned about the way that I think. That explained a lot of my decisions that I make on a daily basis. Kind of the things that I prioritize that kind of help me really align my energy and align what I have to do.
I'm going to give an example. So the job I'm on right now, my superintendent is my age, and so at the very beginning of the job, we were working. I think it was 6:30 to 7 p.m. 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I had a conversation with him where I had to set a boundary. Not only was it tough because he was my friend, but he's also my boss and he's also my age. I had to tell them, hey man, we got 4 or 5 field people, so why can't we learn how to rotate someone locking up every different night? That way we're not all expected to be here from 6:30 to 7 p.m. It was a hard conversation. How'd it go? He didn't really like it. But after that week, he took some time to think about it. The next week, that's what we started to do. I close up now Monday, Friday. Sometimes I don't have to close up Friday, but now because I was willing to be uncomfortable, willing to go talk to my superintendent and tell him, hey, why can't we split the load instead of it just being on me or expecting it to all be on one person? It sounds really trivial, but that's going to be that's just like an easy example. That's like surface level. That's like the easiest thing you can do is go and challenge your superintendent. There's going to be lots of times out in the field. I think about in New Orleans, whenever I was handed an iPad, I'm going to go run the punch list. And, the way I thought about doing this was in our daily huddle meeting every morning. Does everybody know what a daily huddle meeting is? Every morning we have our daily huddle meeting. And I just ripped this guy a new one and tell him how he did everything wrong. This isn't right. Right? Just like if I just came up to you, Chris, and told you everything about an assignment you just did wrong in front of this whole classroom, how do you think it's going to go? It's not going to go well. So I did that like month 1 in New Orleans, and I lost all the trust from any foreman at all. So I had to learn, okay, what's the way to go handle that? For me, it was, I'm going to go up to Chris and say, hey, man, we got a punch list. We got a lot of these items. I need you to knock it out by Friday. Try to give him a weekend some time. And if he doesn't complete it by Friday, then I'm going to go to him one more time to give him an opportunity. Maybe he has another foreman above him, a superintendent. I'm going to go to him with Chris, and I'm going to talk about it. The next time, I'm not going to embarrass him in front of the meeting, but the third time, I'm going to ask him in the daily huddle, why have you not completed this much? And that's just a little bit of the conflict and the boundaries and the stuff that I had to learn. And I failed a lot. Like, I'm still not perfect. I'm never going to be, but being uncomfortable and challenging people is going to be a huge part of your job. And like Justin said, right, we have an awesome opportunity to be a position of authority, and we don't know. We don't know the technical skills. We don't understand how the building gets built, but our company's expecting and relying on us to do those things. And so I want to hear some examples about y'all. What are some times you went through conflict, and how did y'all handle that? And how can you really tell the students, how do we tell them a good way to handle conflict?
I got the story for you. The boundaries, as we're talking about boundaries, right? And I like the perspective that we have. We're talking about boundaries from different perspectives. Boundaries with my superior, boundaries with my client, boundaries with my architect, also boundaries with trade partners. And one of the traps I fell into early on was being too friendly with trades, right? Like, I'm a cool guy. I like to hang out with everybody. I like to make a good environment. I like everybody to be like, things are flowing and things are good. And so I would oftentimes become too close to some of my trades. I would develop such a trust that it was like, oh, you're going to slip next week? Okay, we'll figure something out. I was too accommodating. And so I think although the industry has this view on command and control that might be a little kind of over the top, there is a certain amount of command within the industry that you need to have as a project leader in order to drive it. But you also need to handle that with humility too, right? Because you have the ability to make or break a trade worker's life. The way you schedule a project will affect their mental health. And I assume, is everybody in this room, please raise your hand. General contractor, you're going to work for a GC. Raise your hand like we raise our hands. Okay. For trades, or some of you working for trades? Yeah? The trade workers? I'm telling you, man, it's rough out there, right? That's probably why. And I'm sure that contributes to it. But, I think it's important that most of us GCs, right, as you're entering it, definitely be friendly to the trades, but don't be overly accommodating, right? There's got to be a mutual respect of, hey, we're here to get something done. We're here to provide value for the client. And oftentimes, the last thing I'll say is the trade partners, the trade workers are going to be your clients, and also each other's clients as you're building a building. And so think about that from a deeper perspective. Your client isn't always the person with money. It's the person who's next in line that you're delivering work to add value. So don't get too.
Contrast to your story, Adam, I was kind of the other way. So I came from a company that they thought that yelling and screaming was the way to get projects done. So not knowing any better, that's kind of how I went into things. And after butting heads with enough superintendents, enough foremen, and enough times that we're hitting a wall here and we're not getting any further. Why is it? No. It was my fault because I was being too aggressive at the time. And I wasn't taking the human part in the conversation. Just like Adam's saying, you go out there, you're affecting everybody's lives, and you're finding it work. And I mean, we had a unique situation because we were owners' representatives, which we generally butt heads with GCs. It doesn't need to be that way. And I've learned a lot in my time as construction manager that I'm actually here to help, because if you're not successful, I'm not successful either. Ultimately, the client's not successful. So that's the best way to look at it. We're all working as a team. You're all my clients. I'm here to help everybody. I mean, let's all do it together. Let's build up together.
Don't get me wrong. I've thrown a hard hat or two now.
There's a time and place, but it's behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Is anybody in their experience seen the yelling and throwing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Already?
Did it work?
Not
No. Okay.
Well,
It did?
yeah, the guy, my internship, and I've dealt with trades my whole life, so I kind of know how things can get heated. But the thing is I'll be the first to admit, I do pretty good in my classes, but I'm by far not the smartest student. Okay, but I feel like I excel at communication. I love to be friends with everybody, and I get along with just about anybody on the job site. There's one guy, big thunderous voice, great big guy, even if he's talking to you normal, pretty intimidated just by his presence, right? So it's very easily to be intimidated by him, even if he's just talking to you normal. So yeah, I mean, something went wrong on the job, and I've been there for like 2 months. My internship was on this stuff, and normally I didn't have to deal with a lot of conflicts. I mean, there was some here and there that I was on the back burner. I was there for the conversation, but I wasn't in the conversation. So yeah, and it was my turn to be in the conversation. So I went to him and I was like, this is wrong. Like, here's the plans. Like, come back and we need to patch this up and fix this. There is the hard hat. Like, not cool. What do I know? I'm the intern. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, we don't need to fix this and that. And I told him, I was like, I know it's wrong. I was like, I can show you right here. I was like, we need to go. I was like, I'm instructed by my boss. So what comes from me is coming from him. I was like, and that's the only way that I could portray that, like, I'm being serious. This is what it says right here. And I was like, it's wrong or not, it's your time to fix it. Like, I know I don't have to deal with it because I'm gonna be sitting here watching you do it, and I don't have to. But at the end of the day, it's like you still gotta have that balance between you gotta be nice to somebody and you want to be friends, but at the same time you need to be stern and not get like ran over, because in our positions it's very easy for somebody to walk all over top of you and you get taken advantage of very quickly. I had to find that out very quick. So it was, a lot of the times you're going to be working with these people on different job sites.
So figure out how to time it.
Would you consider that a boundary? Boundary between, hey, we can be nice and simple and we can be friends, but we also need to accomplish the things that we've committed to and made promises on.
Or else I'm not gonna be.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way. That was an awesome story.
I just have a story, but I want to ask a question first. So, how many of you have had to move? Okay.
You've never moved before?
I'm just asking. Never moved. That's okay. So those of you that moved, when you had to call somebody to help you, was it somebody that you were friends with, somebody that you kind of knew you could trust, or was it just some random person that you had the ability to help? Okay. A friend, right? I mean, I got brothers, so I just call them brothers. But is it somebody that you know and that you trust, or is it somebody that, hey, they can get the job done, check the box? I mean, you can do both, but most of you, just based on not heading, you're going to call somebody that you trust and that you know, right? And so when you think about that at the job site, there's going to be a lot of times, you can correct me, if you're going to have to ask somebody to do something, you're going to have to ask somebody to, again, fix something. Who's more likely to help you? Someone that you have treated like crap and that you have, again, zero respect, or someone that you don't have to be super nice and just cater to them, but that you've been respectful and that they know you want them to succeed just as much as they want you to succeed. When you put yourself in a position to where those are the people around you, it's not going to be a fight. And so my example of my story is we had 2 jobs going on, 2 different superintendents in Spartanburg, South Carolina, 2 different jobs, 2 different project teams, 2 different owners, and we had a couple trades that worked on both jobs. Okay, so our superintendents, we actually had 3 jobs going on at the same time, but they had superintendent lunches. So every month, the superintendents would get together and kind of talk about what's working, what's not working, what struggles are we having. And so one of the lunches, one of the superintendents came in and goes, "Oh my gosh, this freaking trade is killing us with change orders." And the other superintendent goes, "Well, that's interesting. We haven't gotten one change." They're like, "What do you mean? Like, we haven't gotten one?" So they were just like, well, how is the same trade doing this on one job and not doing it on the other? So our superintendent that hadn't had that problem went back to the job site and he said he went to the trade, he went to the foreman. And he asked me, he goes, hey, he goes, I was talking to one of our guys across the town and why are you not coming to us with change? He's like, man, Josh, we got all kinds of things that we're having to do out here. He goes, but we know that you're going to take care of us because of the way you treat us. Because when we need stuff, you give it to us, and and so we're willing to sometimes, foot the bill. Sometimes go out of our way to help you because in the end, we like working. We like the way you treat us, and we know that in the end, you want us to make money, and you want us to. And we know the people on that other job, and that's not the way they feel. And that's so small, and you're just like, I know that's all that touchy-feely crap, but guess what? That's money. Even though it is touchy-feely stuff, but in the end, they can make a decision on, hey, we're just going to do this because, hey, it's the right thing to do, and in the end, they're going to take care of us, or we're going to change order them to death because in the end, you're going to be on the receiving end of that. And if you're building relationships with those people and they know you're going to help them out, hey, I'll get the brief, I'll help you just because I know you want to get out because the kid's got a baseball game. Then on the flip side, they're going to do that for you. You've got to think about this.
Let me tell you, as a male in society today, like it's being taught to be like strong and like go get them. That is super.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have a friend, Jesse Hernandez, that wasn't able to come today, but him and Thomas, they had a conversation. I don't remember exactly which podcast. Maybe we can spit out later, but they talked about this, and there's so much. There's pride in what we want to do with our work, but that pride turns into the pride that is toxic. And so, like Adam said, the majority of our industry it's like 90% males, 10% females. And that 90%, like Adam's doing.
We're about 13%.
There we go.
We're back up to 13%.
There you go. That's 3 more percent. Yes.
Do a quick poll. Who's seen the famous picture of
Everybody but him.
that picture was taken in 1932 at 30 Rockefeller Center in New York City. It's very iconic. Put behind us in the park. I've been up to the top of that. I see the same thing. But if you look a little deeper, none of those guys are tied up. Not one. One guy's got whiskey, I think. But that
Don't
is.
do that.
It's not only. It's very widely known, very famous photograph, but it's also it's the identity of construction. Still is today. And that's not only what we think of ourselves. That's what society thinks of construction. So if you go against that, it's like, hey, I want to tie off, or I want to wear my, instead of the iconic Skull Guard hard hat, you wear the new generation one with the flip down visor. It's the performance on the new ones are better, but you look weird wearing it first, right? But the only way for us to make change is to actually do things differently. Yeah, and the only way to do things differently, just once, maybe a couple times, but that's that. If we can break that, and not to say that those gentlemen in 1932, reason why it's very iconic and famous, but nowadays we don't have to shroud or hide the fact that there's a mental crisis in we talk about it, and as soon as we can talk about that issue, it's like, man, the reason why I feel trapped in my job because I have no time. My commute is 4 hours long, and I take my time out of my sleep. You think about that, like, I don't know what you're signing to a poster project. This is a problem we can solve, but we can't solve that until we confront that issue. And when you confront that issue for the first time, you'll be faced with this. Inexperienced in the industry, you will face conflict because you will look different. The reason why you look different because it's a very proud industry, and it's been around since the beginning. Having built environments before, right? okay to be different. In fact, you're more strong and you're more courageous. You're more of a man. You're masculine when you are independent versus following. Be proud to be different.
So going into that, it's going to be, I know it's a big question and we're getting nothing. 20 more minutes till we start running out of time. But, how do we respect the people doing the work? And what I mean by that, Thomas just hit on it, talking about mental health. But we talked a lot about setting boundaries, how do you handle conflict, a lot of the leadership and emotional intelligence side. But the aspect of, Adam mentioned it, we have a direct opportunity to negatively or positively infect a trade person's life, right? And so we also have to deal with ourselves with taking care of our own bodies, like Thomas was talking about. But the respect for the people doing the work, I think this crew definitely, that's where we all are very just together on. But talk about that. How do we respect the people doing the work and understanding just the hardships they go through? Because I mean, if you think about it, general contractors, at least the company I work for, Robbins and Morton, Shopko, we have all the resources in the world. Like our companies are some of the top companies. We're not struggling. It's up to us to go talk about it. For other people, it's trades, right? They don't have the resources that we do. And so, again, I'm rambling here, but how do we respect people?
So to me, respect comes in many different forms, and we're going to talk all about the people side of it. But there's also a power that you have with the GC where respect means giving a trade the information they need to succeed, giving them a work area that's clean and safe, well lit, that they can succeed, keeping your restrooms on the job clean and well lit. We can shape the environment to help the trade succeed, and that's also part of respect, right? Respect is empathy. Respect is also, hey, I'm going to give you a safe area to work in. I'm going to give you a clean area. If you need answers, I'm going to get those answers for you. A lot of times what happens is we ignore that stuff, but we don't ignore the schedule. We ignore the RFI answers needed. We ignore the clean area. We ignore bathrooms. We say, hey, you still have 1 week to do the job. So to me, respect comes also in those forms where we can do things that can make the trade successful. That's also safe and high quality work.
More than being nice, right? Respect is more than being nice. It's giving them the resources, giving the worker the resources they need to be successful. That could be bathrooms, clean bathrooms. Like, would you allow your family member to use the same bathroom you allow your trade worker to use? Ask that question. If not, why not, right? I think the other parts of this that you kind of briefly touched on was we got to value these people as members of society. They all have value to contribute to this job. Without them, you don't build anything. So, too often are we as leaders on job sites, myself included, walking right by a trade worker who's doing really hard work. It might just take 1 or 2 thoughts or ideas to just engage with them. And say, hey, how you doing? That looks hard. How could you do that different? I attribute all of my success in the construction industry to the fact that I empower the trade worker to make their work easier for them. That is the one trick. Like, if you're going to leave here with any cheat code at all, is go to the worker and say, wow, like, just watch what they're doing. Like, we're doing this with ABC right now. Watch what they're doing, identify what's hard, make that work easier, and where are they going to buy in and love you and want to work twice as hard for you. And you're doing work that's easy. But it all starts with engaging and going out there and asking questions. Again, this people side, this like culture of like caring, it is a little uncomfortable. I'm gonna be honest with you. You're having these conversations with designers, owners, trade workers. Like, that takes a different level of communication ability to navigate that.
I'll just share a short story actually from something that happened recently. I was on a project over in Gaffney, South Carolina. I was there for about a year and a half. $55 million project. It was a 3,000 square foot building expansion, and we put a new production line over the Gophers plant there. And throughout the project, I mean, we had 150 contractors at the peak, so not a lot, but decent size to manage. And throughout that, I got to know this guy. We called him Grumpy because he had the grumpiest looking face you can imagine. He was the nicest guy in the world once you got to know him, and he'd do anything for you. But we're sitting there, we're doing this project, all of a sudden we're starting to have some issues on who that Grumpy's a part of. And so we start to notice that, and we're just, kind of staying amongst ourselves as leadership. But at some point, I'm over there talking with him, and he says, "Yeah, I just went up, my wife's got cancer." Just found that out, and I also asked him, "Okay, well then, when's the last time you went home, Tom? You've been here for, I'm here every day. I see you here every day too." He's like, 3 months ago. So I'm like, "Well, this can't happen. This is not good for mental health and for people here working at these job sites." So we went and had a discussion with the general contractor. They had no idea that they've been there. That's a big thing. Know how long our crews are on site, how many days, hours are put in away from their family. You don't know what's going on. And something little like that can make all the difference in the world. Guys, get them to trust, get them to do things for you on the site. When the project gets heavy, things start to go wrong, others' backs. And trade foremen, chiefs, construction managers, we're all there together. That's just a piece of advice I would have.
What do y'all think about that? Doesn't have to be a question, but just any thoughts, maybe things super respectful or even disrespectful.
Another reason why I got into the construction industry is because of like linemen, foremen. They're mostly Hispanic. I'm Hispanic myself, so I kind of have like with them. But ever since I started with my internships, I've made it a goal of mine to get to know those people, and just some of their stories are heartbreaking, and it makes me just, it kind of puts you in a place of like, what can you do, and especially as just an intern. But this past December, November, I was in a project in Nashville, and it was like 8 degrees, it was raining, and I saw this woman with just like a light jacket, and I was in a puffer jacket, and I was freezing. So then it kind of gave me the idea, because I know that we have a bunch of visible hoodies in our office, to bring them to the site and offer them, just warmth, so they can do their job better, but also it shows that you care. And it makes me feel like hopeful hearing you guys talk about the same things. I see through my internship people that I work for that don't have that perspective. So kind of bringing that culture into our industry is like very important to me. So I just want to say thank you, because you just don't hear that much from people. And hopefully all of us can start doing that, just caring about others.
So I don't want to misguide y'all. Again, the people you see up here are like what Thomas said, like we're out dancing on job sites looking different right now. So it's not standard in the industry, right? I think you're even saying that with the people that you work with as well. But it's on, like, y'all can change this, but it's within your control.
The hardest trap you can fall into in your position early in your career is to do something because you're going to get ahead, to do a bad habit, to keep pushing, right, to keep mistreating people because you're going to get rewarded for it. So that's a hard thing. It's something you got to be super conscious about, right? You really have to understand what your values are, how your personality is, what it is. Because you'll be put in positions where you will get rewarded for mistreating other people. That is any job site anywhere. You will be put in that position.
How many have heard the saying, "This is how we've always done it"? I think we all have heard that. It doesn't mean it's right.
But to Justin, is that what I heard you say was you can get a short-term gain by this mode, but long-term you're not going to get what, right? I think that's what you guys are trying to say.
Yeah.
You may get it today, but a year from now it's not going to work out.
You make
At
it.
what expense?
Yeah,
There you go.
could yell and scream and mistreat, and you have to finish this today, right? And it'll get done today. But then that trust is gone, that connection's gone, and down the road, so yeah, 100% a short term thing. And thank you for sharing that story. I mean, that's an awesome story.
You're exactly right. Not many other trade workers look like a lot of people in the group. I'm just gonna be honest. So we can have those awkward and uncomfortable conversations. We'll do this.
So once you've disrespected them, how hard is it to get it back?
Sometimes I don't know if you can.
Work the whole job trying to do that.
Yeah, sometimes I don't.
How well do you know that?
Now Walker challenged me, this is the guy I do the podcast with, one of my best friends. He was challenged by his foreman. If I don't know the coworker's spouse's name, I haven't done my job well. Right? So like if I don't know anything about going like Adam talked about it, you don't want to be so friendly that you're scared to ever challenge anybody, but you have to learn how to walk that line and care for a human, right? And so yes, that's great story. And I want to say thank you to you because this is the whole point why we're here. This is why we want to have this conversation. If you guys and gals can take that and go to the job site, day one on the job site, and you stick with that through your career, you're going to change the industry. That's what we need.
And just so you know, you're coming into an industry, and we can speak from experience. 9 times out of 10, the person you're engaging with, you're going to see again. And so think about when you engage with people and they mistreat you or they treat you like crap or they disrespect you or they don't value you. Guess what? When you get back in front of them again, you're already judging them. You're already prepared, putting your armor on and ready for what they're going to do. And it's not going to be a true engagement. That if you treat people like that in that moment to get across the finish line on the next project, if they're on that one too, guess what? They're coming in already prepared and ready. That's not going to help you. It's not. So just think about that when we say respect and we say humility, we're not using those words lightly. Like it's respect because we're in an industry that there are a group of people that are doing the things right now that are changing the way we do work. And if you're changing the way you do work, and Rachel can speak to this, we have trades that only want to work on our projects because of the way we treat them. Guess what? They're not working on Thomas's projects. And so that,
We're working on the same hospital right now.
I mean, just
We do.
but I'm saying, like, in this industry, because people get to pick where they're going to go and they get to pick who they're going to work for. Like, if you're mistreating people, again, they get to go and somewhere else. And if we find those people that are really good, like if you're not taking care of them, then you're going to get trades that are not good. Then you're going to have a whole lot of other troubles that have nothing to do with how you're engaging with.
I want to give just one career tip off of that because that's beautiful advice. All of you guys are going to, and girls are going to go out and work for companies, right? Find the company that closest aligns with your values and not necessarily the company that's going to give you the first opportunity or the biggest opportunity. It's a two-way street, right? Y'all are going to be in interviews, but you're interviewing them. Finding that company that shares those values. What are your thoughts on that? Comments, questions?
Preferably from this side. No offense.
No.
Y'all are incredible on that side.
Oh, man, I've got a question. You were talking about, I'm sorry. My first question. You were talking about priorities, making sure you align right with your company. Do you have any suggestions on how to find out the true priorities of that company? So, you know, whether
I have a recommendation. Depending on where you are interviewing, walk around the office, or job site, talk to the people that are working for that company, and ask them, what do you love about this company? What do you think could be better about this company? Why should I come work for this company? Those 3 questions. You will find out exactly what the value is.
I can add to that.
Ask for a job site tour. Specifically, I'd say, hey, I want to go walk a job site. Right? Marketing, I love all the marketers. I love all the marketers out there.
You better be careful what road you go down
I know,
right
you're
now.
watching it, but marketing's a beautiful thing, right? The pictures on the wall may not actually represent what's out there in the field. So ask for that job site. If it's an office setting, like Ms. Jen said, go see where it's at. and talk to the people. I mean, LinkedIn's a beautiful thing, right? You can reach out to people that work for companies that you're interviewing with and say, hey, like, can I pick your brain a little bit? Can we talk on the phone for 15 minutes? Can we go grab lunch? Let them tell you from their perspective, at a mid to lower tier, what it's like, right? Because a lot of people that are interviewing are in higher level positions. Find peers to talk to, or somebody that may just be, one level up.
I had a student from Texas A&M that reached out to me and wanted to talk for 10 to 15 minutes. Do something like that. I was fired up that someone was willing to ask me, what can I do to get better and be more prepared for this industry? So we're ready for y'all. If y'all want to do that, feel free to call us, but just think outside the box. I mean, I think about where I was a few years ago to where I'm at now, and this group has tremendously helped me of just challenging myself of how do I get better, right? Just how do we continue to help shape and mold you guys, and how can we continue to grow this industry together? So that's kind of it for the questions that I have prepared. If y'all have anything, feel free. These guys have a lot of wisdom. Any question about anything, this is your time to do it.
So kind of tying into the whole idea of like respecting workers and kind of being on that same level of them. I know it can be easier for like certain people like myself. I've worked like trade works, and so I kind of just throw that under the rug and they get a little bit more respect for me. But that doesn't always work. And I think one thing that like hurt me whenever I was working was like, you have a boss that's like, everything's gonna be okay, and then they go and take a week off vacation. Like, how do you guys find that balance and helping workers and telling them like, yes, things are going to be okay. Yes, your mental health is a priority, even though they might not have those resources, they might not have as much time off as you do, or certain things like that. And this just makes me think of a conversation with my dad. And I told him about me graduating, and I'm making nearly as much as my dad is, especially being first generation college student. And when I told him how many days I had off, he was like, that's crazy. That's impossible, right? And that's because he's been a blue collar worker my whole life. So I guess the biggest question is like, how do you make that connection with someone that isn't in the same situation as you, or what are things that you guys have seen that has helped a lot of people underneath you? Not necessarily underneath you in that way, but in chain of command.
You have to have tremendous advice for someone going into the construction industry. You have to have tremendous range. What I mean by that is you have to be able to connect on a real level with people of almost every socioeconomic sector, for lack of a better term, that exists in probably the built environment, people who have jobs. Now, what I mean by that is you will interact with people who are on like their first day in construction, like first grade. They barely tied their boots this morning. You'll work with people who struggle with drug and alcohol. You will definitely have interactions with members of the public who are angry about your project because it's blocking their view.
Personal experience?
No doubt about that. You will also probably interact with like public entities like power companies, and we're working with Duke Energy right now. Definitely any utility company. So they have this tremendous range. I've worked with CEOs of like the Honeywells of the world and Googles. So you've worked with people who aren't even in the industry but are highly influential. And then you'll work with like members of the government. The bigger the projects you get, like president will come and visit you. Like working in South Carolina soon, you'll probably likely see some. So you'll interact with this tremendous range of people, and that's like some of that's the best part. Now, and also it's like really challenging because you got to be able to communicate really effectively on a lot of levels. You have to sharpen that, including learning new languages. You got those skills, use them, and if you have the capability to sharpen your tool, you'll probably ride up and down an elevator with a CEO, maybe get a stock tip. But that's some advice that got to be very excellent on many levels.
I got two quick answers.
Sorry.
No, that
We
works
got one
for
too.
first. Yeah.
But so one, we plan our work really, really well, and we're super fanatical roadblock. People in this room, we're chasing roadblocks on the daily, on the weekly. We're constantly looking ahead a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so that we can take that vacation. That vacation is important to restore, have the energy to do all the things that we're talking about. And to the second point, how do you bridge that conversation? And this is where I'm going to kick it to Miss Lacey because she's pretty awesome. But what makes you human? Right? Like we are all human, and we all have a connection. We all have names. We all have families. We all have a story. And so when you invest into somebody, into their story, right, you're able to actually learn. Learning doesn't always have to be technical. Learning can be emotional. Learning can be that trust building that we're talking about. So I encourage you, just say, hey, what's your name? How you doing? And they're going to look at you like, what do you want? Because this doesn't happen very often. It's shocking. But stick with it, because then you're like, hey, teach me something. That was my famous line on the job. Like, hey, my name's Adam. What's your name? Like, I see you working so hard. Can you teach me something? Yeah. Or, again, Miss Lacey says, what makes you?
Be ready when they teach you to time block about 30 minutes, because most people, they will teach you.
But I'm going to go back to your question of how can we help? What's the advice, right? So the easy answer in this industry that we're in is there's some place that doesn't respect them and give them other places. And I'm just going to tell you as a person that touches every new hire that comes into the company, many of our new hires were trades that worked for us. And their companies were not the same culture that our company. And so they saw from one side that they wanted to be on this side. So that's an easy answer. The one that we really want them to stay in the trade, because that's going to help us, is helping them understand that working for GCs that share the culture of caring about their people, they're not going to have to worry so much about the firm giving them the time off if the company, the GC that they're working for has an employee appreciation, has trade partner appreciation, has the time where they're doing team building and they're taking the time, because I see it across projects that those trades get pulled into that culture, they get pulled into that environment, whether their companies do it. And so if those projects do it, if you're going to be on projects, you're going to be in positions to where you're going to be able to help drive the culture on those projects. And if you're helping take care of your trades, you are helping them even if they're firms.
What's your name again? Tristan. Tristan, that was a great question. I would encourage you, I think your heart's right in the right spot. If you're already asking that question, I think that you're really caring. One of the things, there's two people I listen to. One of them's in the room, Mr. Adam Hughes. He does an amazing job about just caring for people. So his podcast, like he talked about at the beginning, if you're trying to grow in that area, definitely go there. There's another guy I listen to, his name's John Deloney. He's a counselor, but he just talks about his life stuff, right? Like just emotional intelligence. That's where I'm really trying to grow in myself. But I think you're asking the right question. If you're asking that question at this point, when you get there in your career and you're investing and having resources. Anybody else?
I guess I got a little story.
Yes.
All right, so I first started, this past summer, I was working on this big building. It was the Lowe's Design Center up in Charlotte. And there's this one trade worker. He's a foreman, he loved me. His name's Roger. He did metal work and everything. And every day, whenever I start my day, walk around, I have my little notebook, seeing what everyone's doing, checking to see how many people they got working, what they're doing today. And I'd be like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Just saying good morning. And every time Roger had an issue, he'd come to me. I'm like, Roger, why do you always come to me? Man, when I go to that other guy, he doesn't usually do say good morning. Like, I agree, you're going to be a great project manager one day. It's just cool being able to see it from like a foreman or an actual trade worker. Like, say something like, hey, I don't like how he's talking to me. I like how you're able to communicate or ask me how I'm doing because I'm a human being too. I think another thing, that trade, the mill work, they were extremely held up on the job site. Like, dude, he's always yelling at me. Why don't I have this? Why don't I have this? You need to do that. It's like he was saying, he's like, not even the guy. Like, I'm waiting on deliveries and it's all the way at the factory. Like, what am I supposed to do if I don't have the materials? I can't do the work, and they're always just yelling at me. They're going to the wrong guy. Like, so you're just yelling at people and pushing and pushing and pushing isn't always going to change it.
But you being willing to go ask them, that earned you the right to do that, right? My aunt taught me, kind of going back to your question earlier was, how do you lead someone and not them? You have to earn the right to speak into the life. And that might be really hard. You may not understand what that meant. I didn't know what it meant for a really long time, but I had to keep showing up, caring for someone else, right? And then just eventually from you asking a question, or like Adam said, hey, can you teach me something? Or what's your spouse's name? Eventually, you're going to get that opportunity to help. Have that, you already have that authority, but now they're allowing you to speak into their lives, and you're able to help really change, like Ms. Jennifer said, the culture of the job. So.
And to do that, you don't build that relationship on the job. You don't have to start super deep. You don't have to go up to someone and say, "Hey, what's your wife's name? How's your family?" That gets a little awkward the first time, but you learn their name, right? And then you say good morning. And you say good morning. Stop. Hey, teach me something. Hey, what are you doing this week? Hey, did you see the game last night? And then you can build that into the deeper relationship. So it's not, it's a time thing, right? Don't go the first time you meet somebody and dive right in. Take those gradual steps to build that relationship. You made a good point. And I want to ask you, how long did it take you from the time you started that habit of talking and saying good morning to everybody to the time he said, "Hey, I appreciate you doing that"? Yes, what do you think that time span was?
Almost immediately.
Almost immediately. That's awesome.
So just, trades, foremen, if they see a big superintendent coming by and everything, they know if they're short on time, they're trying to avoid them.
Why is that? Why do we think that is?
Who likes conflict?
Problems. Yeah, that person brings big problems.
Who likes conflict? Nobody likes conflict.
I wasn't on that job for long, but even just a few superintendents, like just talking to them once or twice, then you have a conversation. The next time you can go based off of that. And one thing I learned, like I did a bunch of punch lists. It was an outfit. We were finishing up the last floor and everything. One thing before I tell them what I need to get done, I just asked them because maybe they already had it on their agenda. They already knew, were aware. And one thing, and Justin even told me because I worked with Justin for a few weeks, is ask them what can we do to help them. Like, hey, we know you're all cut up. Can I get someone to help you out? What do the other trades need to do? Can I move anything for you? Do I need to clean up the area? What can I do to help you be on time? That's good.
Some stuff there. Like we start working with designers. A lot of times we'll give them, hey, we need these answers. Over the fence. Yeah, if you actually have those same conversations with knowledge workers, engineers, I'll tell the stories of a lot. But I was superintendent on the LinkedIn tower, the headquarters of LinkedIn, and they're doing shotcrete. You ever seen shotcrete? Really messy, really messy. They like shoot concrete out of a nozzle with air, compressed air, and there's a byproduct that's called rebound. It bounces off the rebar and it falls to the ground. You can't use that for structural reasons. So like there's like 20-25% of the material just goes to waste. And one day I was like watching them do the work, and there was a laborer. He's down in a big 60-foot deep excavation, loading a wheelbarrow, driving over and then taking it up the hoist, and then he dumps it out. I can't. That seems like a lot of work. So he was like, "I have an idea, Thomas, but you have to like hear me out." I'm like, "All right, I'll hear you out." He said, "Can we use this in that pit as non-structural fill?" I was like, "That'd be check." And the reason why that was kind of a pivotal moment because I had a good relationship with the geotechnical engineer, and I knew kind of the properties of non-select soil. It's basically you can use styrofoam, right? It just needs to be filled. It just can't be aired. So we made that decision right then and there, and that made that gentleman's life like a million times better. And we gave him $1,000 which wasn't like, I mean, it's not inconsequential money, but it's probably big time for just a like a clean $20 an hour labor. So, anyway, like if I didn't stop and think, and you have that same story, but you also had that capability of making that change. Because you have to have both. You have to have the idea and the capability of making the change. And if you take that and do the action, that's how
Don't take it and not do the action.
don't
That's how
not
you
do
get worse.
that. Yeah, actually, it worse because it's people get resentful.
You ask your questions and I just have
I don't have a question, but I'll just go along with what he said. Like, when I had to relay a message or ask someone to do something or coordinate different subs on the job site, I would always make the point to just say thank you for helping me out. It's very simple, but I mean, not a lot of people high up, they just throw out a command and go about their day. They don't appreciate what they have going on. And in return, I always felt like it made me look better because knowing you're appreciated, they get it done. When I'm asked to do something, then they get it done, and then it just trickles down. And one day, just to give an example, the two superintendents were gone that day. I was the only one on the job site for the majority of the day. And I ended up buying 3 foreman's lunch that day just because I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off all day, trying to coordinate and get things done. And they helped me out a lot. And so I showed them I appreciated them, helping me out because that was a lot of pressure as an intern coming in and knowing that big mans are all gone and it's on you to make sure everything goes good that day. So
Plus you can make them say the job site work, right?
He's just kidding. He doesn't mean. Before you do
Okay, go.
closing thought, I'm just curious. Raise your hands. How many in the room want to be superintendent? Maybe. What's on your mind? Why maybe?
I don't know. I want to get to the field to see what. I haven't done an internship yet, but going into this.
For anybody that did raise their hand, why do you want to be a superintendent?
more of a people job, I think, and it's something different every day. Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't know going into my internship that whether I wanted to go, okay, well, I'm going to see what job fits me the most. So obviously I'm starting out as a project engineer, but later on I wouldn't mind making the transition. And I'm just not the type of person that sits behind a computer all day, for one. And two, project manager. You're running like chicken cut off all day trying to put out fires, basically. It's not always, you're in meetings, you're talking to the high up, but I like being on the job site. That's just the kind of thing that piques my interest.
That's an awesome answer. Thanks for sharing that. What about who wants to be project manager? Yeah, can I pick on you? Megan, right?
Yeah.
Can I pick on you? Why do you want to be a project manager?
I'm very much of a person and I really respect the field. I love having something, but I'm also the kind of person who hardcore things. So that kind of fits my personality.
And you have some trade experience, right? Baker Concrete?
I'm actually working with them this upcoming summer. So
Upcoming
not
summer.
quite yet,
Okay, not
but
quite yet.
we'll be soon.
Yeah, that's a great company.
So I want to add on to what Justin asked y'all, and then my closing thoughts is interesting. The only thing he asked y'all was if you wanted to be a superintendent or a project manager. Because in my head coming into here, I want you to make sure you understand that right now, and I just can speak from my firm, there are roles in lean, VDC and BIM, construction technology, scheduling, logistics, prefab and modular, and MEP that did not exist 4 years ago. Did not exist within my firm. And they are now positions in my firm of people that are doing that full time. So do not limit yourself to superintendent and project manager when you're thinking about what you could do in this. That wasn't my closing thought, but that was because of what Justin did.
We have drone pilot now too.
Right. And so my closing thought is, please remember, the people you surround yourself with will change your trajectory. Think about that. The people you surround, and it doesn't even have to be the people physically that you surround yourself with. Because every person that is up here, every single one of us, some of them I met for the first time today, but I've known them because of LinkedIn, because of social media, because of places that I connected with them. And we found out we had like minds, and we are changing things in this industry that we were not in. So, and I am going to recommend every person up here, find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, and follow them, because every one of them are doing amazing things.
Some of them already did. Who was it? Who already reached out to? Somebody? Yeah, 1, 2, and you guys raise your hands.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That was my closing thought, so I'm good.
We all.
What, any more questions?
Thank you guys for coming
thank
out
you.
here. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Well, so I got one closing thought, maybe I can do it, but so our intention is to take this to multiple universities, right? And so one of the things that the people up here do often are what we call plus deltas. Have y'all heard of plus deltas before? Okay, so it's an exercise after an event like this where we talk. I'm losing you. We talk about what added value. Ms. Jen, how do you explain?
Plus delta is a plus is what added value to them. So what will you leave here and go, man, I'm glad that happened. Glad we talked about it. Delta is what was something missing or something that could be improved upon.
Exactly.